I stared at the cracked earth stretching to the horizon, ignoring the sweat dripping down my neck in the merciless Texas heat. The realtor shifted uncomfortably beside me, checking his watch for the third time. "Look, Miss Thompson, I understand if you want to think it over. 5,000 acres is a big commitment, especially in this location." I smiled, remembering Dad's voice at last week's family dinner. Who'd waste money on desert? Sarah's always chasing crazy dreams instead of settling down like her sister. Mom had nodded, passing the potatoes to my sister Amy. "Your sister's husband just made partner at his law firm. Meanwhile, you're looking at empty land." "I'll take it," I said, turning to the surprised realtor. "All 5,000 acres. The closing meeting 2 weeks later was quick, efficient, and met with universal family disapproval. "Desert property?" Dad threw the paperwork on the table. "You spent your inheritance from Grandma on rocks and sand?" Amy smirked from her designer armchair. "At least my investment portfolio is properly diversified." I kept quiet, remembering the geological surveys I'd spent months studying. The formations underneath my worthless land matched patterns that had made millionaires in other parts of Texas. 6 months passed. Every family gathering became an opportunity to mock my investment. "Any cacti turned to gold yet?" Amy's husband would joke. "Still time to sell," Mom would hint, showing me listings for sensible suburban homes. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was reviewing soil samples when my phone exploded with notifications. The local news headline flashed: "Major oil company announces massive discovery." I watched the corporate announcement, my hands shaking as they displayed the map. There it was, my worthless land, sitting right in the middle of what they were calling the largest oil deposit discovered in the last decade. Within hours my phone rang. The oil company's name flashed on the screen. "Miss Thompson? We'd like to discuss your property." That evening, as I drove to my parents' house, the radio buzzed with news of the discovery. Analysts were throwing around numbers that made my head spin. I pulled into their driveway just as the TV news began. Dad was in his usual recliner, Amy and her husband on the sofa, Mom serving her famous pot roast. "Breaking news," the anchor announced. "In what experts are calling a game-changing discovery." The screen showed aerial views of familiar terrain. My terrain. Early estimates suggest this could be worth billions. Dad's fork clattered to his plate. Amy's husband choked on his wine. "The property owned by Sarah Thompson." Mom dropped the pot roast. I sat quietly, watching their faces as the news continued. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about being patient enough to let reality do it for you. The numbers the oil company had quoted me that afternoon sat in my pocket, written on crisp corporate letterhead. Numbers that would change generations of my family's future. "Sarah," Dad started, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "we should talk about family financial planning." I smiled, thinking of all their mockery, all their doubts. "Yes," I replied calmly, "we should. Maybe we could discuss this as a family," Mom suggested, suddenly interested in my financial decisions. After all, family should stick together in times of opportunity. The TV continued its coverage. Industry experts estimate extraction could begin within months, with initial projections suggesting. Amy's husband, the ever-successful lawyer, cleared his throat. "You know, Sarah, my firm has excellent experience in oil and gas contracts. I could look over any paperwork for you. Like you looked over my foolish investment 6 months ago?" I pulled out my phone, showing them the missed calls from every major oil company in Texas. Funny how desert land becomes valuable when other people see its worth. Dad leaned forward, his dinner forgotten. "Sweetheart, you'll need guidance. This kind of money, it's complicated." "Is it?" I opened my briefcase, spreading out the geological surveys I'd studied for months. "More complicated than researching soil compositions? Understanding mineral rights? Learning everything about oil exploration?" While you all laughed. Amy's perfect makeup couldn't hide her shock. "You knew? All this time? Those endless weekends I was wasting in the library? I was studying geological patterns. When you were mocking my empty land, I was meeting with experts, analyzing surveys, understanding exactly what I was buying." Mom's hands trembled as she poured more wine. "But how did you know?" I smiled. "Because I did what you taught me not to do. I looked beyond the surface. While you were all focused on what the land looked like, I focused on what was underneath. The oil company's offer sat in my briefcase, the number so large it needed 8 commas. A number that meant I'd never have to listen to their financial advice again. The company's sending contracts tomorrow, I said, standing up. And yes, I already have lawyers. Real oil and gas attorneys who didn't spend the last year laughing at my decisions. But family should handle family business, Dad protested. Family. I gathered my papers. Family supports each other. Family believes in potential. What you did was the opposite. As I reached the door, Amy called out, "We can discuss this over dinner next week." Actually, I turned back. I'll be busy meeting with the development team. They're eager to start drilling on my worthless desert property. The morning after the news broke, I sat in my new corner office at Thompson Energy Consulting. My company, not my father's. The Wall Street Journal lay open on my desk. My worthless land investment splashed across the front page. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since dawn. Dad, we should discuss family wealth management. Amy, let's have lunch. I have great investment ideas. Mom, your father's very concerned about your financial decisions. Uncle Bob, remember who helped you with college tuition? The oil company's contract sat before me, their lawyers having worked through the night to finalize terms. Numbers that made Amy's husband's law partner salary look like pocket change. Miss Thompson, my assistant called through the intercom, your family's in the lobby. All of them. I glanced at the security feed. Dad in his best business suit, Mom clutching her designer handbag, Amy and her husband looking like they'd stepped out of a corporate catalog. Even Uncle Bob had shown up, probably remembering the $5,000 he'd loaned me for college, which I'd repaid with interest years ago. Send them up, I said, arranging the geological surveys on my conference table. Time to show them exactly what they'd mocked. They filed in, their confident facades cracking as they saw the view from my executive floor. Downtown Dallas stretched out below oil company headquarters, dotting the skyline. Sarah, Dad started, straightening his tie, we've been talking as a family. Interesting timing, I interrupted, pulling up the development projections. No family discussions when I was buying empty land. No family meetings when Amy called it a desert wasteland. We're just concerned, Mom smoothed her skirt, eyeing the contracts. This is a lot of money for someone your age. Someone my age? I turned my screens to show them the research I'd compiled. While you were planning Amy's law firm dinners, I was studying oil exploration patterns. When you were mocking my dirt pile, I was meeting with geologists. Amy's husband stepped forward, business card ready. My firm could represent. Your firm. I laughed, displaying my legal team's credentials. The same firm that said my land purchase was financial suicide? I have the top oil and gas attorneys in Texas now. Amazing what the biggest discovery in a decade attracts. But family should manage family money, Dad insisted. Like you managed to discourage every independent decision I've made? I projected my company's organizational chart. Thompson Energy Consulting has its own management team. Professional executives who didn't spend last Christmas calling me a failure. Uncle Bob cleared his throat. About that college loan. The loan I repaid 7 years ago? I pulled up the bank records. Before or after you told the entire family I was throwing money away on land surveys. The Wall Street Journal headline flashed on my screens. Billion-dollar oil discovery transforms Texas desert. Here's what happens now, I stated, watching their expressions. The mockery stops. The financial advice ends. You want to discuss my business? Make an appointment through my office. Like everyone else who laughed at the crazy girl buying desert land. Amy shifted uncomfortably. But what about family dinners? Those weekly occasions to criticize my choices? I checked my calendar. I'll be busy. Oil development meetings. Board presentations. You know, all those wasteful activities you said I should give up. My phone lit up with another alert. Major investment firms seek partnership with Thompson Energy. Sometimes success isn't just about the money. It's about watching those who doubted you realize they'll never control it. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across my office as another notification lit up my phone. Global Energy Corp seeks exclusive drilling rights. Your sister's real estate friend called again. My assistant messaged. Says she has Prime investment opportunities for your new wealth. Decline, I typed back. Same for any other family-connected business proposals. Dad stood up, attempting his old authoritative stance. Sarah, you're being hasty. With my business experience. Your experience? I pulled up more screens. Let's review that. Here's you calling my land purchase financial suicide at Christmas. Here's Mom at Easter saying I was wasting my life on dirt. Here's Amy's husband advising everyone not to enable my desert obsession. The live feed from my property showed massive drilling equipment being positioned. Equipment worth more than their combined lifetime earnings. The development starts next week, I continued, watching their faces. The same project you said would never happen. The same empty land that's now worth more than your entire neighborhood. We were just worried about you, Mom tried. No, I corrected, you were worried about appearances. A daughter buying desert land didn't fit your country club narrative. A female oil baron wasn't part of your plan. My phone buzzed again. Financial Times requests exclusive interview with Sarah Thompson, oil discovery pioneer. Speaking of plans, I gathered my papers. I have a board meeting. Unlike family dinners, these meetings actually impact my future. But what about family loyalty? Amy's husband protested. Loyalty? I laughed. Was it loyal to mock my dreams? To undermine my confidence? To tell everyone I was making the biggest mistake of my life? The elevator dinged and my executive team filed in, their presence making my family shrink back. Power shifts have a way of changing room dynamics. Sometimes, I said, watching them process their new reality, the best business decision is remembering who believed in you when there was nothing to gain. And who only showed up when the profits were proven. As security escorted them out, I heard Mom's last attempt. But we're still family. Yes, I called after them, and family should have believed in me before the oil did. 6 months after the discovery, I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse office, watching drilling rigs dot the horizon like mechanical giants. Thompson Energy had grown from a one-woman operation to a corporate powerhouse employing hundreds. The morning's headlines scrolled across my desktop. Thompson Energy signs $2 billion international contract. Desert Queen, how Sarah Thompson transformed Texas oil. Forbes, youngest self-made oil baroness expands empire. My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Your sister's in the lobby again. 3rd time this week. Let me guess, I replied. Another investment opportunity? She's with your parents this time. Your father's carrying what looks like business proposals. I glanced at the security feed. Dad clutching his worn briefcase. Mom in her Sunday best. Amy trying to look professional in designer business wear. The same outfits they'd worn to every attempted family meeting since the oil discovery. Ms. Thompson, my CFO entered with fresh reports. The new geological surveys came in. 3 more potential deposits identified on your secondary properties. The properties I'd quietly bought while my family was still mocking the first one. Amazing what you can accomplish when nobody's paying attention to your foolish investments. Your mother's been calling donors at the country club, my PR director added. Trying to arrange a family reconciliation feature in the society pages. I smiled, remembering last year's country club Christmas party. Isn't that where they held the Save Sarah from Financial Ruin intervention? The elevator chimed. Despite my strict appointment-only policy, they'd somehow made it up. Family privilege dies hard. Sarah, Dad started, brandishing his briefcase. I've developed a family investment strategy. Like your strategy of telling everyone I was destroying my future? I pulled up the company's latest valuation. This future. Mom stepped forward, clutching her handbag. Sweetheart, we just want to be part of your success. Success. I projected photos onto the wall screens. Here's me signing the land deed, alone. Here's me meeting geologists, alone. Here's me negotiating with oil companies, alone. Where were you when success wasn't guaranteed? Amy smoothed her expensive blazer. But we're here now. Family should stick together. Family. I turned on the live feeds from my oil fields. These are my family now. People who believed in the vision. Workers who respect the work. Executives who understand business isn't about last names, it's about results. My phone lit up. Middle East Oil Consortium seeks partnership. Sarah, Dad tried again, you need experienced guidance. Do I? I displayed the company's growth charts. In 6 months I've built what you spent 30 years trying to achieve. While you were all planning my intervention, I was planning an empire. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the office windows, glinting off the oil rigs in the distance. My rigs. My empire. My vindication. 6 months after the discovery, I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse office, watching drilling rigs dot the horizon like mechanical giants. Thompson Energy had grown from a one-woman operation to a corporate powerhouse employing hundreds. The morning's headlines scrolled across my desktop. Thompson Energy signs $2 billion international contract. Desert Queen, how Sarah Thompson transformed Texas oil. Forbes, youngest self-made oil baroness expands empire. My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Your sister's in the lobby again. 3rd time this week. Let me guess, I replied. Another investment opportunity? She's with your parents this time. Your father has business papers. I checked the security feed. Dad with his old briefcase. Mom dressed up, Amy in designer business wear. Same outfits they wore at every family meeting since the oil discovery. Miss Thompson, my CFO said, handing reports. 3 more deposits found on your other properties. The ones I bought while my family mocked me. Your mother's been calling donors, my PR director added. She wants a family reconciliation story in the papers. I laughed, remembering last year's country club party. Save Sarah from ruin. The elevator chimed. They ignored my appointment-only rule. Family privilege dies hard. Sarah, Dad began, waving his briefcase. I have a family investment strategy. Like when you said I was destroying my future? I pulled up the company's valuation. This future. Mom stepped forward. Sweetheart, we just want to share in your success. Success. I showed photos on the wall. Me signing land deeds. Me with geologists. Me negotiating with oil companies. Alone. Where were you then? Amy fixed her blazer. But we're here now. Family should stay together. Family. I switched to live feeds of my oil fields. These are my family. Workers who believed. Partners who delivered. People who respect results, not last names. My phone lit up. Middle East Consortium seeks partnership. Sarah, Dad tried again. You need our guidance. Do I? I showed growth charts. In 6 months I built what you failed to in 30 years. While you planned interventions, I built an empire. Sunlight hit the windows, shining on the oil rigs in the distance. My rigs. My empire. My vindication.